Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. This is Multifamily Chronicles, and I'm your host, Adrian Danila. Today, we have right here in a studio with us, Russ Hamilton. Russ is known as CEO of ConnectedInvestors.com. Russ, welcome to the show, sir.
Hey, I'm really excited to be here, Adrian. This is going to be a great show.
Russ, first of all, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit about your background and about your journey.
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, just like Adrian, I am here to give and provide as much content as possible. I don't have anything that I'm selling you. I just sold my company. So all the things I used to sell, I kind of just give away now because I'm not allowed to sell them, non-compete. But my story really starts, 20 plus years ago when I was a semi-pro BMX rider who would go from contest to contest. I had a BMX clothing company, a Volkswagen van where I'd drive around the country and compete in these contests. I got to ride and learn from Dave Mirra, who was the Michael Jordan of BMX. And I got really good really fast at BMX because I was associated with the best, people that made the impossible possible. And I got to surround myself with a lot of very good bike riders, and I got very good at riding bikes. And something kind of crazy happened to me. I broke my leg in a very, very bad way. And at the time I was devastated, but that actually turned out to be a very, very good thing for me. I was completely broke. I found real estate investing because to me, real estate is the best option for people with limited options. And I was totally broke, literally, financially and physically, found real estate, did it the same way I did BMX. I associated myself with the best people I could. I learned as much as I could, and I applied myself. I went from flipping bikes to flipping real estate. And I did very well in a very short period of time because I didn't need to know everything to get started. I just needed to know what the first step was. And then I would go do that, and then I'd come back and say, now what? So because I was maybe a little ignorant, I got in the game. And that's the most important thing when it comes to real estate. Through my profits in real estate, I'd be flipping properties, and I'd take the profits, and I started a technology company, which is ConnectedInvestors.com, which kind of turned into the LinkedIn or the Facebook of real estate investing. I grew that into several million members. We had multiple products within the platform, one to help people get funding, one to help people find deals, residential, multifamily, commercial. And I recently sold that company to First American, an $8 billion Fortune 100 company. I had to manage the integration of Connected Investors into a Fortune 100 company with 18,000 employees. I learned so much. And while I was doing that, I started and kind of funded a nonprofit to help with the affordable housing crisis. Because Adrian, as you know, real estate is the #1 way to become a millionaire in the United States, but it's also the #1 way out of poverty. So I went from showing people how to make their first million to now I'm just trying to help people get their first house so they have a legacy they can pass on to their children. So in, I don't know, what was that, a minute and a half, that's kind of high level. I've been in the ditches, knocking on doors, to doing 100+ property portfolio deals, to starting, building, and selling a tech company. So I have a wide array of viewpoints of this industry. And I really look forward to kind of sharing my hard-earned lessons, because that whole trip was a lot of grinding, a lot of learning, and a lot of really exciting things. So yeah, Adrian, I'm really excited to just be sharing right now, because that's what I'm here to do.
Russ, we're gonna go back and restart everything in slow motion, right? Because what you just said in like 2 minutes, this is like years, maybe decades of lessons learned. So I want to get as much as possible from that. So going back to the BMX part, right? When you learn a lot, I wanted to ask you, what were some things that you learned that you've applied in your career as a real estate investor? what were some lessons that you basically
Yeah.
were relatable, you learn, and you just took them, and they help you get successful into the real estate field, investment field?
Yeah. No, that's one of my favorite questions because I didn't really reflect on that until the last several years, how important sports were to just my entire philosophy on how to do things that are challenging. So in extreme sports, particularly, there's a lot of risk associated. Like every time you hit a jump, you could get really hurt. So you have to learn how to manage risk. And a lot of times when I would fall, I'd be like, oh, that wasn't that bad. And I would get up and then I would be able to do the trick. So there was a lot of mental preparation in that. And I carried that forward. My risk tolerance was very high. So that was lesson number one. I'll pause there if you want to talk about that. But there was another important lesson.
Oh no, please keep going. I like the lessons.
Yeah. So, but just to finish that thought up, as an entrepreneur, I mean, there is risk in everything you do. And as a non-entrepreneur, there's huge risk in not doing anything. So no matter what you're doing, there's a risk associated with it. So you might as well be putting yourself in a path of moving forward to where you don't have to rely on someone else, because real estate will set you free. It will take care of you for generations to come. So it's very risky to do nothing. You need a side hustle, whether it's real estate or something else. The reason I like real estate is because it is cash flow and it's a sellable asset. It's very easy to sell real estate. It's very challenging to sell a business. So I believe everyone should be adding at least a property every 18 months to their portfolio. Like, you don't have to stress yourself out and you need 1 million properties right now, but in the next 24 months, get a property and just do that a few times, and your future self will thank you for it. So that's my little ode to real estate there. But the other lesson I learned was all around kind of co-opetition. In real estate, the people that you network with, you kind of compete with. And the same thing in BMX. The people I would train with, I would be in contests with. So I had a good attitude toward that. I rooted my friends on, even when they would beat me, because my competition always made me better. And the better people I was around, the better I got. I'll never forget this, Adrian, when Dave Mirra first moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. We had built this big box jump, right? 5 foot tall, maybe 16-foot deck. And we were jumping it. And he said, I'm going to do a backflip and touch my tire to the ceiling. And in my head, I'm like, number one, that's way too high. Number two, even if you do it, it's going to stop your rotation and you're going to fall flat on your head. But by the end of the day, Adrian, the whole ceiling was filled with tire marks. So that's when I learned how important it was to associate yourself with individuals that made the impossible possible. Because before that day, that was completely impossible. So then when I was just trying to do a bar spin, all of a sudden that wasn't very hard anymore, because he's doing backflips and touching the ceiling. And I mean, a bar spin is simple. You throw the bars and you catch the bars. There's nothing else really to it. It's all in your head. Just like real estate. I mean, you buy low, sell high. Like, it's not hard. You just have this thing that's in the way. You have these excuses that you sell yourself, and you disguise those excuses as reality, but it's all just BS. Like, I was a broke BMX C student who failed my real estate agent exam because I couldn't do a HUD correctly. Needed tutors to get through basic math, and real estate was simple enough for me to be able to kind of move forward with. So some of those lessons really propelled me into real estate, because if there's one quote I want you just to write down, it's this: how you do anything is how you do everything. So, the way that you make your bed in the morning, translates to probably how clean your desktop is on your computer, translates to how organized you are. Like, there's no task that is insignificant. And it's really hard to remember that. And it's something I have to reflect on constantly, because I'll get I'll fall off of that philosophy for a period of time, and I have to correct myself and come back. I am by no means perfect. I got all my journals sitting right here on my desk, just that I reflect, my lessons of the day, and I keep them close to me. Because, how you do anything is how you do everything. So the way I did BMX was the same way I did real estate, was the same way I did tech, is the same way I'm doing my charity now. So those are some of the lessons that I learned through, through sports and extreme sports.
Next in the journey, how did you find real estate? Like, why real estate investment, right? You did tell us about a story, you had a broken leg and, you were broke, physically and financially. How did you find real estate, and how were you able to actually start investing by being broke, right?
Yeah.
A story there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, Adrian, you're right. I was broke. I was discouraged. My whole life was BMX. My leg was like a 1.5 year long injury. So, I had a cast on for over a year. I couldn't do anything. I thought I was going to be on the X Games. So it was a really tough time. I got in a kind of a low place. All my friends, I didn't have any friends anymore, really, because they were doing things that I couldn't. So I just had to figure out a way to make a lot of money legally that would support me wanting to ride my bike, right? Even after I healed, I still do ride. I ride almost every single day. Still to this day, more mountain bike now than BMX. So I wanted to find something that was good. And the first thing I did is I went on a little journey. I found the most successful people I could in my town, and I asked them the question: if you were my age, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self? And it was, they all had very similar answers, but what stood out was they would buy real estate and they would travel. Those were the two things that they said they'd love to be young to do those two things. If anyone can go back and be 20 years old again, if you bought real estate, that's awesome. And think of real estate prices when you were 20. Imagine if you bought everything you possibly could figure out how to buy, where you'd be today. And then traveling at 20 is a lot different than traveling, in the future. So they gave me that information. And then that was literally, again, that was all I needed. I just needed to know the first steps. So I went to Barnes and Noble, because the internet wasn't what it was today. We didn't have Adrian sharing great information. And I just found some books on real estate. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich really helped me out. Still one of my favorite books of all time. So I found real estate, and then I just started to go to every real estate event locally I could possibly find. Honestly, in this post-COVID digital world is a bit challenging for me, because I like to get face-to-face, elbow to elbow. That works out well for me, but I'm learning how to adapt. I have to, I have to continue learning. Everyone does. Once you stop learning, you stop earning. But back in the day, I would go to every meeting, meet everyone I could, and find my, Dave Mirra, find those individuals that were doing what I thought was impossible. And I found some individuals in town through my RIA that were very actively buying real estate. And I just did anything I could to hang out and associate with those individuals. Adrian, I used to just show up at their office and just work for them for free. I'd say, hey, do you need anything done today? You don't have to pay me. I just, I have a few hours if you need help. The first few days, they chased me away, maybe the first few weeks. Then one day, this guy's like, go put some signs up. And I was like, sweet. So I put up some for sale signs for him, and I was so excited. I'm like, I'm investing in real estate now. And then one of his guys was sick one day, and he sent me to the courthouse to copy down potential foreclosures. So I learned that process, and I just kind of road passenger to a successful real estate investor. And I'm like, this stuff's pretty easy. There's like 5 things you need to know to get started. And then that gave me the confidence to go out and start buying my own real estate in very creative ways. I did a lot of creative seller financing, a lot of creative partnerships. I literally had $0. So when you have no money, you have to be good at structuring deals, because if my mentor told me this, and he was true, if the deal's good, money will never be an issue. So if you have a property that could be bought for 40 cents on the dollar, you're not going to have to worry about getting funding. You're not going to worry about selling it. If you have a deal you're trying to pay 110% for, it's probably not going to go through. So I got really good at finding discounted real estate and or creating seller finance deals to where I can get into it with no to little money. But really in real estate at that age, Adrian, I knew all I needed was like 1 deal a year, and I'd be making like 5 times more than all my friends at the time. So I just wanted 1 deal so bad. And I got that deal. And actually, as a matter of fact, I just sold my first deal a little less than a year ago, and made tons of money on it all the way. It was a cash flowing deal. I was cash flowing several $100s a month, sold it, did a 1031, bought my parents a property with that money right there. So anyway, yeah, I found real estate because it was the best option for people with limited options. There's no roof over your head. There's no licenses required. It's just you versus you versus your hustle when it comes to real estate.
Would you share the details of the first deal? Like, how you said you had 0 money. So I learned that. But then what are the other details? Like, whom did you bring in? How did you finance the deal? How much did it cost? How much did you sell it for a year ago? And how long ago was the first deal? How many years ago?
Yeah. So first deal I bought when I was 19. I'm 41 now. So, we got 20 years-ish ago. So the very first deal that I bought, it was an individual who was renting a property to his son. His son actually had to go to jail for something, right? I'm not sure the details. And I knew the individual through my work. This was a guy who would come in all the time. I told everyone I knew I told them I was looking to buy real estate. I'm like, hey, if you need to sell any real estate, I'd work it into a conversation, not in a network marketing way, but just to make sure people knew. The guy was like, you know what, I do need to sell my house. So this one particular deal, the first deal I did, I got traditional financing for. It was back in the day where if you could fog a mirror, someone would give you a loan. So I was able to purchase the property with none of my own money, with a job that was just, I was a dumpster diver, Adrian. That was my job. I would drive from dumpster to dumpster and pick out scrap padding and recycle it. If you've ever done a rehab, the scrap padding is the worst. And this guy was just one of the people that had a dumpster at his spot. But I was able to get traditional financing on it because he was selling it to me at a really good deal. So I got traditional financing on it, and then through sweat equity, I fixed it up a little bit. The backyard had a garage. I turned into an apartment on a budget. I mean, literally, I personally did it. And then I got it reappraised, and it appraised for about $150,000 more than I paid for it. So I was able to get an equity line on that property for approximately $70,000. So the second they gave me that equity line, I actually had some working capital. So now I had a property that had some cash flow because I rented out the garage in the backyard, and that kind of covered my mortgage, and I had access to 70 grand. So that was how I got my capital. And I used that then. That's why, Adrian, I moved all into seller financing, because I would use 5, maybe 10 grand at a time to give people to buy these other properties. So I leveraged that 70,000 into, several dozen properties. And I paid like 100-ish for it. And I just sold it for about 500,000. But I've been making $1,200 a month off that property forever. That one property set me free. I was living at my property, making nearly $1,000 a month because I rented out the garage apartment and the 2 rooms. So that one property set me completely financially free.
So house hacking, first of all, and then second lesson is owner's financing. Would you elaborate a little bit of how on how sellers financing works, and how did you is this something that you have done repeatedly, like along the way? Is that one of your techniques to grow your portfolio, or have you used others too?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Seller financing was, to me, I was able to get all the upside with none of the downside. Because if the deal fell through, I can only lose the money I had in the property. There wasn't going to be any risk of a bank foreclosing on me. So it was how I mitigated my risk. And I used a lot of different, I used not a lot, 2 or 3 different strategies. I did a lot of subject to seller financing. And that is when the homeowner deeds the property to you, subject to the existing mortgage. So their name is still on the mortgage, but your name is on the deed. This is a class all in its own. It has a few lefts and rights, but way less complicated than the stuff you probably do at work. So I was able to get a lot of people to deed me over their house. Individuals that were losing their house to foreclosure, that didn't want a foreclosure on their record. I would often do profit splits with the homeowners. So they would deed me their house. I would go in, fix it up, sell it for full retail. Then we would do a profit split of sorts. That was one of many strategies. In real estate, you're a problem solver. So you need to just figure out what that individual needs. So subject twos were really good. And they're really good again because subject twos allow you to go back in time and take over some of the best interest rates we'll probably ever see in America. So you can pick up a 3% mortgage if someone deeds it over to you. And then also outside of that, I would do traditional seller financing where the homeowner would just seller finance me the property. Now you don't have to worry about all the details. You can I would negotiate. If someone wouldn't sell me a property at a steep enough discount, I either needed a good price or good terms. That was it, one or the other. If I couldn't get either of those two, I would move on. But here's a specific example of one of my favorite deals. A lady was in foreclosure. She needed $10,000 to save her house. Her house had been in her family for a long time. She really wanted to keep it. I couldn't help her with that. But I asked her a very important question. I said, do you have any other real estate you might want to sell? She said, well, I own the 10 acres across the street. So I was like, interesting. So the deal we worked out with her is I gave her $10,000 and I purchased the property and she seller financed me the property across the street. With no interest. She wanted $150,000 for that property. She was okay with breaking it up. So I said, okay, I can give you $150,000 for the property. I'm going to make payments of, I think it was $500 a month until the loan's paid off. And payments will start once we have an approved subdivision. Now, we did something else that was very, very, very interesting. We did a substitution of collateral. So she seller financed me the land across the street, but the $150,000 debt was not on the land across the street. It was on a different property. What that allowed me to do was to have a property free and clear that I can then take out loans against to start on some of the development. So I made payments to her on time. She loved it. But every month when I made a payment, that $150,000 equity would start to be built into the property with every payment. Imagine if your house was that way. Every time you sent $2,000 in, came right off the top. So that was just one of the deals. She had one stipulation. I wasn't allowed to sell the land to this one neighbor. That was it. Clara was her name. I said, Clara, I will not sell the property to that guy. So I got it fully entitled, and then I sold it to a developer because I couldn't do the development. I thought I could, but that was very detail oriented. So I got an approved subdivision, and then I sold it off to a developer, paid off Clara Kellum, and move forward with hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it was a real win-win. She got everything she wanted. She saved her house. I created a really interesting opportunity and actually used those profits to fund major development in my tech company. So the whole time I was flipping houses, I was moving that money somewhere else to start another business. So I used my real estate to start my tech company. Now, when I sold my tech company, all that money is going back into real estate. So that's the great thing about real estate. It's a stepping stone to anything else you wanted to do. I got into it because I wanted to have a free life where I could ride my bike every day. And then I moved the money into tech, and that worked out really well. So yeah, that was an example of some seller finance stuff that I've done. And I know it sounds, you might be like writing down notes, but all you have, if you want to do this, all you have to say is, I'm going to find someone who is willing to sell or finance me the deal. You don't have to know any of the details. You can just be out there doing deals, and you can say, hey, are you open to receiving payments for this property? If they say yes, ding, ding, ding. Now, then you can start to go learn all the other things, because there's so many potential ways you can go that you can get analysis by paralysis, right? It's like, get a real deal. Then learning what you can do with it will be fun and exciting because you actually have something tangible. You know, Adrian, people ask me all the time, Ross, how can I invest in real estate? And I'm like, do you want to sit down for 4 days? Like, we have 5 minutes here. But if someone comes to me and says, hey, I have a lady, or I have a person that wants to sell or finance me a deal, how would you structure that? Then I'm like, I get excited because I can have a real conversation because I'm talking to someone who's in the game. So just get in the game first, and then you can find people are willing to talk about it. You know, if you have a specific deal, people want to talk to you. If you're just gonna, hey, I can't figure this out, I don't have time for those people because they're not showing commitment to get in the game. So I'm wasting my time and my breath talking to those people because they're not going to do anything 99.999% of the time. I want to talk to people that are going to take my advice and go do something with it, because that's the exchange. That's the reward. The reward is, I helped you, and I love that. That's all I want to do right now.
It's amazing what you just said. Ask the right questions. So for someone to get in front of you and get your attention, they have to know how to ask the right question. Am I saying this the wrong way?
Yeah, they have to ask, yes. If they can ask me an intelligent question, I want to help them. They ask me a specific question, right? It doesn't have to be like, there's no bad questions, right? But just don't ask me, how do I invest in real estate, or how do I find a deal? Like, do some of your own work a little first and come to me with a specific question, and we can have a real conversation. And that's what I did for my mentors, because here's the thing. You might also be listening, oh, Ross had some mentors and stuff. I did. And I always tried to provide value to them first before asking for anything. I didn't realize this till later on, but value to someone is to take their advice, apply it, and come back to them. If someone said, Ross, I did what you said with that seller finance deal, you know, it worked out. Thank you so much. I'm going to be like, oh, that's awesome. You know, let me know if you ever need any more help. It gets me going. So applying someone's advice is a compliment, and it makes it more fun for everyone.
We're going back a little bit again. So you told to us about how you start your beginnings as a real estate investor. How larger of the portfolio you had when you sold and you switched, you changed direction? How many assets you had at the time?
Yeah, that's a good question. You know, when I was about 23, I had roughly 50 properties, give or take, that I had figured out through seller financing. So started 18, 19. So 4 years later, I had about 50 properties that I was, part owner of, because I did a lot of partnering, or had some sort of financial interest in. And again, I was using my real estate profits to fund my tech company, because it's so much easier to raise money for real estate than it is for a business, especially tech. Real estate, if I come to you and say, Adrian, if I called Adrian tomorrow and I said, Adrian, I got this great multifamily deal, it's worth 600,000. I can pick it up for 410. That's a safe investment, right? There's a $200,000 buffer there. Your money gets secured against a real asset. But if I came to him tomorrow and said, I have this great idea for an app, it's going to do this, this, and this. It's, I need 400 grand. Adrian's going to be like, yeah, I don't think I need more time to think about that. So real estate is very easy to raise money for. And I need you, anyone on this call, to realize that real estate is the easiest business in the world to raise money for. I was a broke dumpster diver and got $100 and some odd $1,000. And that was the only business that I would ever be able to raise money for. No one was going to give me a business loan. I didn't have the time or patience to write a business plan to even get a business loan. So real estate is easy to raise money in. And actually what I'll do is I'll give this book away. I wrote some books, like The Inside Guide to Funding Real Estate. I can't sell it, but I can give it away. Excuse me. So maybe in the show notes or something. So anyway, real estate was really easy to get funding for. And the more I grew my social network, connected investors, the more connected I was, and the easier it was for me to sell properties, to find those partners. So I didn't stop investing in real estate, but there was a time to where my real estate was kind of running on autopilot, and I was most of my time was on the tech side. When I sold, to really answer the question, when I sold my first $99 subscription, I was like, $99 a month. There's no tenants, no toilets, no termites, right? I'm like, wow, it's every subscriber I sell, that's almost like buying a house. So I was just all about cash flow. Cash flow was the security that I wanted. I'd use my big chunks of money to figure out a way to have a lot of little bits of money come back. And I just kept wanting to build that up more and more. So, 2007-ish is when I start. 2005, I bought the domain name. 2007, it started to become a real thing. 2009, I was probably like really in the thick of the tech side.
We're pausing a little bit, and I wanted to ask you, because this is very important for me and for the audience, I know for sure. How important is networking in the whole big scheme of things? How important is networking when you're an entrepreneur and you want to become a successful entrepreneur?
I couldn't think. The way that I personally go about things, that is always the first step. So it's 10 out of 10 importance. Having a group of people around you that are holding you accountable. When I rode BMX, if I didn't show up to the skate park one weekend, I was nervous when I saw my friends on Monday, they were going to jab at me a little bit. Or I was going to miss something. Hey, where were you? Ryan Nyquist came to the skate park. Oh man, I missed it because I was doing something dumb. So, your network is so important. And there's 100 quotes about the people you associate with, your net worth and networking. In real estate, it is absolutely key. But it doesn't have to be this business card exchanging, fake relationship type thing. It's not about the, the masses of asses. It's about the fewer better. So, you know, you put some wide nets out there, you provide value to as many people as you can, and you'll find people that you really jive with. And a lot of those people can become your business partners, and a business partner, you know, is a very, very, very important part of your life, your relationships. I mean, my business partners, I'm still friends with. You know, I'll go to their weddings, probably be at their funerals. They're not at mine. So, I mean, it's very important.
What
Excuse me.
to find what made you think, like, consider investing in tech? You know, you're doing real estate, you're doing pretty well for yourself. Where is this, you know, tech thing coming from in your journey? Like, where did it?
You know, it was just I saw Facebook start, and I wasn't allowed to use it because I wasn't smart enough. Right? I wasn't in an Ivy League school, and it was a network oriented thing. And I said, this would be perfect for real estate. And it was just a random idea I had. The domain name was available. I thought it would be cool. I believed it would cost me about 10 grand to get something up. And actually, to really answer the question, I needed help organizing my network, because sometimes I would talk to someone who was in Wilmington, North Carolina, is where I started, but they had a deal in Charlotte. And I'm like, oh, I got to find an investor in Charlotte. You know, there just was no way to do that unless you knew people. So I envisioned kind of this map where I can see all the investors and what they were buying, and then I can reach out to them. And by being the owner of that network, it gave me a lot of clout, and people would take my calls. And I wanted to be an authority figure, you know, in the space. And, you know, I just needed to know what the first step was. So there wasn't a big thought out plan. I had a vision. Someone helped me get, you know, an MVP up. And it's like I said, I started in 2005, but it took a few years for it to start taking shape, because it was a hobby. It was just this thing that I would do. But social media took off, so we were in the right place at the right time.
So basically, it started as a hobby, and more, it came from a need of yours, a personal need of yours. The need was, how do I connect the dots? How do I connect all these opportunities with investors for myself? And then you found the value in, like, providing this service to others. That's amazing. That's truly amazing. And I heard similar stories of other, like, individuals that have succeeded based on a personal need that they need to take care of. They got to find a solution for. So when you, from the moment you started and to the moment that you sold the company, the tech company, how many years was it?
Yeah, I sold in 2000. I sold 2 years ago. So, I mean, it was almost, gosh, it was maybe 15, 16 years. Yeah, a solid 15 years, growing the company and in building it. You know, I had some opportunities to sell a little sooner, but the price wasn't right, and it wasn't the right time for me. But I will say, you should always be, if you're building a business, you're either building it, you know, to step out of one day or to sell it. So it's really important just to start your business with that mentality, because I watched a lot of people get stuck in businesses that they can't sell, they just have to close down. You know, a passion business is a little bit different if you're fine with building it and just closing it down one day. But, you know, you have a lifestyle business, or you have a business that you're trying to sell. So I always planned on selling the company. I just had to wait for the right buyer to come along, because in our space, you know, we really set records, because no one in our space had ever sold before to a real company, to a publicly traded company that could write the size check that I needed to step out, because the company was making me millions of dollars a year. It was on autopilot after a lot of hard work, and we almost lost it all a few times. Don't get me wrong, but I needed someone to write a big check. And I sold it. Yeah, I sold it like 2 weeks after my 40th birthday. So I thought just the timing was right. I've been kind of playing that role for a long time, and I was just ready for something. I was ready for something new.
How many users you had when you sold the company on a platform?
That's a fun question. And we had millions of people, well over 2 million people sign up and be part of, our network of websites. But that was over a 20-year, period of time. So, we might have had a few hundred. I don't know if I'm allowed to say, actually. So
That's
yeah,
fair enough.
yeah,
Feel,
yeah,
don't say that. I could understand NDAs and things. I was just
yeah.
curious.
We had enough. Yeah,
Yes.
we had enough to be able to sell. And the company that bought us because of our network and because of the the potential. I took the company as far as I could. I was kind of at that point to where I either had to go raise money and give up equity. I didn't raise any money to start the tech company. I was still 100% owner. So I either needed to raise money or I needed to personally invest millions of dollars into the software for all sorts of under the hood infrastructure stuff that was just kind of soul killing to me. Like, I don't get excited about accounting softwares. I don't get excited about switching CRMs. So the next steps I was going to have to do were going to be painful. So it was the perfect time to sell for me.
How did you get started, with zero, with nothing, build this amazing company through the pinnacle where you ended up selling 15 years later? Walk us through your journey and some lessons that you learned. How have you done some practical ways that help you grow this amazing, platform, and then some lessons that you learn along the way? And some of them might come from failures that you had too. I think it's important to mention if you have some that you like to share.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna share. I'm gonna start off by sharing one of the biggest mistakes I made and one of the scariest times. So when Connected Investors started, I had no marketing budget. Again, I was funding the tech through my real estate. So if I made 50 grand, I would go ahead and build the feature out. So it was a little bit at a time, which is why it took so long. But also the good thing is I was building it for myself and real estate investing. So I knew exactly what needed to be done, which was very, very helpful. I'll talk about the mistakes I made, then I'll talk about the mistakes that I almost made but didn't. So when we first started, I had no marketing strategy. So what I did is I built it so it could be white labeled. Other people could slap their name on it and they can have their own real estate social network. And that was really exciting for me because I needed to get more users. So some influencers, they weren't called influencers at the time, some gurus started using it as their own social network, to where if you went into Than Merrill's, version, they could see everyone in Than Merrill's network, but they can also see everyone in everyone else's network. But they thought the whole thing was Than Merrill's network, if that makes any sense. So I white labeled it for a handful of influencers, and they started to get people to use it, which was exciting. And that's when it started to become a real business. But I kind of got stuck because I was at the mercy of these influencers to promote it. And then they just stopped promoting it. So I stopped growing. And I'm like, this isn't going to work. I need to be able to grow my own business and thrive. So I had a unique marketing strategy where I partnered with other people that had eyeballs, because I needed eyeballs. I didn't have eyeballs. So I needed eyeballs, which is why I work all my business strategies backwards. First things first, how do I get the eyeballs? Then I fill in all the other blanks. Because if you can't get customers, there's no reason to build the greatest thing that's never going to be used. So because it was private labeled, it was a closed social network. You had to get an invite code. So the biggest mistake I made was around SEO, search engine optimization. All of my content was not able to be indexed by Google. So I never really got that draft effect. Just that when like other companies out there, other forums out there had great traffic from Google. So their brand awareness was high. People knew them. You did a few searches in real estate, they came up. So I battled with SEO forever, and I failed and failed and failed and failed and failed all the way until I sold. Have an amazing strategy for that. We'll see if they'll implement it, but why would they take advice from a failure on that front? Let's let them figure it out. So I missed that traffic of SEO. That was a big mistake. I didn't take it seriously. So that was one of my mistakes, getting it out there. But I did get really good at buying traffic, about affiliate marketing, about, I was really good at buying traffic and affiliate marketing, which was good, but it was expensive, because buying traffic, it's very challenging to get to scale with traffic. We did it better than I might say anyone else, rather than maybe one or two other people. I mean, we were spending, millions and millions and millions and millions profitably on ad traffic, on connected investors. We had kind of cracked the code there. So that was my biggest mistake. And there was a time, my other big mistake was I didn't have a good CTO, Chief Technology Officer. So there was a time, Adrian, when I had to throw away my entire site and rebuild the whole thing. $1 million mistake. The vision I have is I have an airplane flying, and I had to change the engine in mid-flight. And I'll never forget it. We were down to 60 grand in the bank, including I was trying to keep it alive myself, including all my personal assets. 60 grand in the bank. We had a $90,000 payroll that was coming due, and we owed our developers a few $100,000, and the site wasn't done. And I had to keep two sites alive. I had to keep the broken one alive and keep paying to fix it while I was building a new version of the site. So I was just throwing away money at speed that was just horrible. It was very stressful. I thought I was going to have to fold the company. My web developer said, "Hey, Ross, we got to hold all your web properties hostage until you pay us." So we went to the web developers and we said, "Listen, we're 8 months through this pregnancy, right? We got 1 more month of work. You can finish it and I'll pay you everything back that I owe you, or you cannot finish it and you'll never get your money." I mean, those are the only two options here. So they finished it. They probably could have negotiated equity right then, to be honest, but they finished it and we launched the new version. And I had all my eggs in that launch basket, had all my affiliate partners lined up. We did a few $100,000 within the first few hours of opening the new site up, did like $1 million in a week and a half. I was able to pay back all my debts and move forward. But the belly of the airplane touched the ground. Excuse me. Yeah. So I made a big mistake because I didn't have a CTO. So we were developing and there was just no rhyme or reason to how we were developing things. It was very spotty development, because I would make money, develop a feature, make money, develop a feature. Didn't really know where I was going. I was just kind of building as I can afford it. But then the new site, we had a plan, we had a CTO, I built a team. I give my team all of the credit for the success. I'm the visionary, I have the idea, I know what something needs to feel like. But that is a very hard thing to translate to a technical person. So having the right team in place that's obsessed with results was absolutely key.
I would like to recap. This is something that it's in a multifamily world currently as we speak. Similar platform has been built. It comes with a membership, right? And the idea is that people that already exist in different environments like LinkedIn, Facebook groups and everything to migrate towards this for the content. So the main challenge that I see as a user, right, is not that I can afford to pay $10 a month or whatever the subscription is. That is not. But it's a barrier that you build, right? Most people will look at this and say, okay, what's in it for me? And you could say, there's great things out there, make like this, great image and great sales pitch. The reality is most people, if they have the choice to subscribe to Netflix for $10 a month or go to a platform where potentially they could educate themselves and up their game, what do you think they're going to do? My opinion, they're going to go to Netflix. So how do you overcome that and still build this amazing thing like you have built, right? So I want you to recap and just, take it as short as you want, but I'm very passionate about the subject. Like I said, it's something that's currently happening multifamily as we speak. And I like on that.
If I had started my same business today, it would fail. The people's back then, like I said, I started when Facebook was just starting. So it was a much different environment. That platform, I'm unfamiliar with it, but what we found is we had to either have deals or money. Because education now is, you can find it on YouTube. It's just not as valuable as it used to be. People aren't selling books and courses like they used to because people can scratch their itch on, TikTok in 20 seconds. So if that multi-family platform has deals that can't be found anywhere else, people are going to go there. If it has access to financing, that is very favorable, people are going to go there. But yeah, just for the money, just for education and connections, that need is met already, and it's more of a hassle than than it's worth. So my timing was right. I would not start my business today. Definitely not. The time to gain eyeballs is over in that spot, unless you are doing something that is very, very, very different. So it had to be very innovative. Right now with AI, if I was doing something new, I'd be focusing there. There'd be some element of that tied into it. I wouldn't be building a data or a social network platform. Plus, people expect a lot more nowadays. When I first started Connected Investors, I had like 80 fake accounts where I was talking to myself to make it look like people were doing stuff. Like I was literally insane, just having conversations on discussion boards to make it look like stuff was happening. But when you have a network, you have to have both sides of the equation there at the same time. And it's very, very hard to do a marketplace because you have to have both sides show up at the exact same time. That's why when they work, they usually explode. And when they don't, they flop. Technology is cheaper to build in today's world. So, they could be building a platform just to have something to talk about, just to have a network to sell to. They need an upsell within that platform that provides real value. And here's the thing about real estate. There are 99 times more people that want to do it than people that are actually doing it. So you have to be able to make money off people that want to do it and people that are doing it. That's the only way something is going to work at scale.
Russ, amazing story, amazing journey, amazing career. You retired at 40 years old. That's also amazing. Not many people achieve that. Not many people achieve that ever. Honestly, they had to work continually until they die. That's just a sad reality, but it's a reality. So you found a new passion, and you started a charitable thing. Would you like something you're passionate about? I want to give you the opportunity to to share some insights with us about what you're doing out there, what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is not, I don't look at this as retirement. I look at it as rewirement, because all I'm doing is rewiring my priorities. this money used to be the number one priority over, unfortunately, everything else in my life. As I've been kind of reflecting on it, all my missions, all my goals were around financial security. I was scared to be broke, right? That was the reality. I had to have a retirement plan. I mean, it takes, take the most income you've ever earned, times that by roughly 10. And that's what it takes to retire. If you made $100,000 was the most you ever made in a year, you need at least $1 million to retire. And that's if you're not taking care of a child or a parent. That's if there's no medical surprises. So that's like best case scenario, which is why owning real estate is really important. And like I mentioned earlier on, I made my first million essentially creating favorable seller finance creative deals to people that were in financial hardship. Motivated sellers, finding deals for pennies on the dollar. You're finding people that are motivated to sell. Typically, that's financial motivation. Financial motivation a lot of times actually comes from, medical challenges. I think I read a stat the other day, just shy of 70% of all bankruptcies are because of medical issues. Over 50% of all foreclosures are because of medical issues. So I was profiting because other people were losing. Now I was selling Tylenol. I was giving a solution, but I always told myself if I ever made it to the other side, I needed to come back and help people. So that's why I founded savinghomes.org, savinghomes.org, to where we are specifically focusing on, for this year, single parents that are losing their house to foreclosure. Our group comes in and helps them stop the foreclosure, make sure they don't get taken advantage of by investors or real estate agents. We're investor friendly, but I've known investors who have done some very sneaky things, and they take advantage of these people. So we want to make sure everyone gets a fair deal. And we do it in a way to where there is essentially an everlasting impact of the donations made. So if you made $100 donation, that $100 could live on for 100 years. It can help family after family after family. It's like the Energizer Bunny of donations. It keeps giving and giving and giving. We use creative real estate strategies that I use to profit in the nonprofit. So if you're losing your house to foreclosure, Saving Homes comes in, gets your house secure, provides you counseling, and then we put if it takes $10,000, we put a $10,000 lien against the property. There's no payments, there's no interest, there's no pressure to sell. All that means is if you decide to sell your property in 15 years, Saving Homes gets the money back, no interest at all, zero. So then we can help another family and another family and another family. So a lot of people, they're like, I don't want to give to charities because all the money goes to operational expense. Well, with this, it's like you're getting 1,000% on your donation, and you're helping families secure their homes so their kids don't have to change school districts. They have a foreclosure on their record. They can't find a rental. They probably have a dog they have to give up. Like, it's just, the ripple effect's horrible. And the family loses their biggest asset, their stable home. If you look at the difference of a homeowner versus non-homeowner financially, generationally, homeowners can borrow against their house, send their kids to college, their kids can get a better school, can get a better job, buy more real estate. And the real estate is just a path up. It's not if, it's just when. It's one of the basic needs. So we come in and we help people secure their home and make sure they don't get ripped off. As an investor, I've been on the other side of this, Adrian. Like, someone might have 100,000 in equity. I give them 50 grand. I feel good about myself. They got 50 grand, better than zero. But $50,000 doesn't last very long today. If you don't have a house, you don't have, that 50 grand's gone. Now they lost their best asset. So anyway, it's just the full circle, and I'm trying to do everything I can to help those families. So if you're an investor, And you can actually send people to Saving Homes that need help. If you're an agent, you can work with us because we need agents to help sell the properties. Not everyone can afford their house. Sometimes you might just save the house, help them find another, and we might just buy them a year or two so they can get stable somewhere else. And then eventually they're going to have to sell their house. But we're going to help. We're going to help them along the way. So savinghomes.org. Visit that site. If you sign up for the newsletter, what I'll do is I'll send you all of my real estate investing courses and books that I used to sell for free. So sign up to the newsletter. You'll get a link. You can download it. You can get my book. You can get this is essentially how I plan everything out in my life. People always ask me, so it's a transformation guide. So you can create your real estate and your personal plan here and use this as a guide. Courses, books, all the stuff you need. Just remember, when you do this, when you go to savinghomes.org and sign up for the newsletter and you get this link, there have been thousands and thousands of people who have paid thousands and thousands of dollars for it. So just because you're not paying for it, don't devalue it. Dive right in. And if you want to make a donation, do so. Because again, that donation is like a ripple effect. It helps a family today, another family in another 10 years, another family, another family, another family, another family, and it echoes into eternity. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. It takes all my real estate skills and moves it into the nonprofit world. And I'm really excited about launching this and helping families all around the nation.
Ross, what are some great pieces of advice that you would share with a young person getting ready to enter the real world right out of a high school or college? Whenever they're ready, whenever they're done with school for the moment, like the school in a classic way, what is some advice for them?
Yes, that's a fantastic question. And I will say one of the books that you get when you sign up to the newsletter is called Real Estate Investing in Your 20s, Retire in Your Prime. So I think I started writing that book when I was 19. So it's an interesting real estate book because it was written during the journey, not after the journey. So that's going to have a lot of really cool stuff in it for anyone in their 20s or anyone who's really getting started. The advice I would give is plan even if you're an engineer, if you're a teacher, whatever it is, reverse engineer your retirement around real estate. Just make sure that you're tying real estate in to your strategy. It is so important. It will be what takes care of you if you get fired, if things change, if you have a medical issue. Your real estate will set you free. You don't have to stress about it, but over the next 20, 30 years, you want to have at least 10 properties paid off. Work that backwards. That will echo into your, generations and generations from now. And again, just pulling from my experience, associating yourself with the right people is obviously really, really important. And it's done in different ways now for people that are 20 to 25 than it was when I was 20 to 25. So I always want people to build their network up. But I would also just want people to leave with some excitement, because it is very, very challenging to cut out all the noise of all of the negativity. So make sure to find that time to understand just how amazing these times are right now. There's plenty of opportunity out there. Don't let anyone say there's not. Anytime there's change, that's where there's opportunity. So, I mean, the next few decades are going to be very, very exciting. So an optimistic outlook, a good, solid network, and a real estate portfolio that you slowly build over time mean, that's going to just really, really make your life fantastic. You'll wake up every day and be like, is this my life? This is great.
Russ, in closing, I'd like for you to say something you didn't have the opportunity to say, maybe answer a question you wish I would have asked and I didn't. What are some final thoughts? Wrap up our conversation today.
Yeah, a lot of people ask me about the real estate market and if they should buy, is now a good time to buy. Looking back, anytime I slowed down my real estate investing, I've always kicked myself. Because if you're able to buy at a discount, it's always the right time to buy. If you can buy with terms, it's always the right time to buy. The only time you have to worry about investing in real estate is when you're banking on appreciation, because that properties may not appreciate. They may go down in value a little bit, but it will come back. The biggest companies out there are still doubling down on real estate again. It's it just keeps happening. So don't try to time the market, because you can't and you won't, and you can always find a reason not to invest in real estate. And I've fallen victim to that as well. So that's what I have, Adrian. I appreciate it.
Russ, if someone in the audience wants to reach out to you, wants to connect with you, what are some ways to get a hold of you?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, savinghomes.org. I'm very active over there right now. That's where all of my energy is. And if you just, go to that site, sign up to the newsletter, and I'll give you links to all my stuff. And if you hit the contact button there, it's going to a small team that I have built. So you can follow me on social, but I haven't logged in a very, very, very long time. I'm trying to quiet the noise and really focus in on the foreclosure wave that's coming, and make sure I can be there to help as many people as possible. So join the mission. Share the URL if you want to help single parents about to lose their house. Make a $5 donation. Just do something. It'll be fun to watch that company grow, because everything I've talked about, you're going to see implemented there over the next several years.
Russ, it was a real pleasure having you today, sir. I had a blast. I couldn't get enough of your story, your wisdom, your advice. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on Multifamily Chronicles today. I truly appreciate it.
Yeah, anytime. Thanks for having me.
Everybody, thank you for taking an hour out of your busy day today to watch Multifamily Chronicles. I'm your host, Adrian Danila, and I hope to see you back here soon. Have a great day.